If there's one place on the map of America where you'd think a murder could never happen, it would be Great Waters, a luxury lakeside community on Lake Oconee, Georgia. This is where elegant homes line the water's edge, private docks catch the golden light of sunset, and elderly residents quietly enjoy a peaceful life after decades of hard work. In a place where the only sounds should be birdsong and the gentle dip of paddles, blood was spilled, silently, coldly, and with chilling precision. Russell and Shirley Dermond were an elderly couple living there, the picture of the classic American couple, kind, private, and deeply respected. Russell had once managed a chain of Wendy's fast food restaurants in the Atlanta area. After retirement, he and his wife settled in Great Waters to embrace their golden years surrounded by nature and loved ones. They lived in a beautiful lakeside home, tending to their garden, reading, and spending time with their grandchildren. To the neighbors, they were the nicest people on the block. No enemies, no drama, just a gentle couple, quietly living out the final chapter of their lives. But then, something changed. It was early May 2014. The Dermonds had been invited to a holiday gathering hosted by a close friend. But neither of them showed up. No phone call, no message. And that wasn't like them. They were always on time, always polite. One of their sons, Mark, tried to reach them. He called, he texted. No answer. Anxiety set in. Then he called the police. The next day, deputies from Putnam County arrived at the Dermond residence. The iron gate was open. No car had left the garage. No one answered the door. But the door was unlocked. The house was eerily quiet. There were no signs of struggle. Everything seemed intact, too neat. Then they entered the garage. There was the body of Russell Dermond, slumped beside his car. His head was missing. No blood on the floor or walls, no foreign footprints, nothing broken, no murder weapon. Just a headless body, cleanly, surgically decapitated, and a room that was deathly still. Immediately, the house was sealed off. The investigation began, and then came another chilling realization. Shirley Dermond was missing. She was gone. No one knew when or how she left. Police feared she'd been abducted. But if that was the case, who had entered the house, killed one person and taken another without leaving a single trace? Was it one person or more? There was no sign of forced entry, no broken locks, nothing stolen. The Mercedes was still in the garage, wallets and phones untouched, everything in place. So what exactly happened in that lakeside house? A luxurious home, an elderly couple, one found decapitated, one vanished, and an entire neighborhood, once defined by tranquility, fell into a silence. But this time it was the silence of fear. Inside the unlocked house, in the quiet setting of a luxury neighborhood, police found Russell's body, but Shirley was nowhere to be found. No note, no phone, no clothes, no suitcase, no indication she had left of her own free will. From the very beginning, police considered a grim possibility. Shirley had been kidnapped. Perhaps the killer murdered Russell and then forced Shirley to leave, to keep her quiet, to eliminate a witness, or to interrogate and threaten her. Every possibility was on the table. The area around the home was thoroughly searched. Roadblocks were set up. Shirley's name was entered into the National Missing Persons database. Lake Oconee was patrolled by boats, helicopters, and canine units. But there was no sign of Shirley. 10 days passed. 10 days of waiting, of questions, of endless speculation and fear. And then, one early morning, a local fisherman, someone used to the calm stillness of the lake, noticed something strange floating in the water. It was the body of a woman, slowly drifting between the ripples. Her hands and feet were tied to two heavy concrete blocks. Police were called immediately. The body was recovered and quickly identified. It was Shirley Dermond. She was dead, and the way she died was horrifying. The autopsy report delivered a chilling conclusion. Shirley did not drown. She was beaten to death. She had severe head trauma caused by a heavy object, leading to fatal brain injuries. After that, her body was bound and dumped into the lake, seemingly in an attempt to hide it. There was no water in her lungs, no signs of struggle. She had already been dead before being thrown into the lake. But the biggest question remained: why? If this was a robbery, why wasn't anything stolen? If it was just about murder, why go through so much trouble to hide the body? This didn't feel like a crime of passion. It didn't feel impulsive. It felt planned, calculated, cold. Whoever did this didn't just want to kill. They wanted to erase every trace, delay discovery, or perhaps send a message. The spot where her body was found was more than 5 miles from the Dermond home. No cameras, no witnesses. No one reported strange noises or unfamiliar vehicles that night. The killer, or killers, had to have access to a boat, intimate knowledge of the lake, and the means to transport and weigh down a body without leaving behind any clues. This wasn't random. This was organized. And so the police were back to square one. Who did this and why? No family conflicts, no neighbor complaints, no visible motive, no signs of what truly happened behind the doors of that house. Lake Oconee, once seen as the perfect retirement paradise, had become the site of something unthinkable, a place where calm waters hid a chilling secret. And the people who lived there would never sleep quite as peacefully again, because whoever did this was still out there. The clearest question, and yet the hardest to answer, has always been: why? Why kill Russell Dermond in such a brutal way, behead him and leave his body in the garage? Why beat Shirley to death, tie her body up and dump it into the lake? If this was a robbery, then why wasn't anything taken? The family's Mercedes was still parked in the garage. Jewelry, cash, credit cards, expensive watches, all untouched. There were no signs of the house being ransacked, no safes broken into, nothing missing. In most murders motivated by theft, the perpetrator tries to take as much as possible, even small things like phones or laptops. But here, everything was left behind. And the Dermonds didn't seem to have any enemies. No debts, no lawsuits, no shady business dealings. Their children were all successful, living in other states. None had a suspicious background, and none had any known conflicts with their parents. Russell was a quiet, soft-spoken man with a clean record. Shirley was always described as kind, gentle, and family-oriented by those who knew her. They lived a peaceful, almost reclusive life after retirement. So then, who would want them dead? And why kill them in that way? Beheading Russell, beating Shirley to death, brutal, calculated, and organized. Police began to consider a disturbing theory. The killer might not have been a stranger. It could have been someone they knew, someone the Dermonds trusted, someone they willingly let into their home. No forced entry, no signs of struggle. Maybe even someone who sat down and talked with them before striking. It could also have been someone who worked in the area, someone who knew the layout, the schedules, the quiet hours, and the geography of Lake Oconee. And there was something else to consider. Great Waters is a gated community. That means not just anyone can come and go. To enter, you need a permit, or you must be a resident. Otherwise, you're logged, questioned, and possibly turned away. But on the day of the murder, there were no suspicious entries recorded at the main gate, so the killer either came by water, or was someone so familiar, so trusted, that no one questioned their presence. This forced investigators to consider an even more chilling possibility. This might have been the work of a professional, not impulsive, not reckless. Someone who knew how to erase traces, someone who knew how to handle a body, someone who knew how to fragment a crime scene, how to delay discovery, how to make the case drag on, without answers. Several theories began to surface. Could it have been someone from Russell's past business dealings? A long-held grudge? A former employee, perhaps fired or wronged? Or was it the work of a cold-blooded killer who chose their victims not for any personal reason, but because they were vulnerable? One question piled on top of another, but there was no evidence, no eyewitnesses, no cameras captured anything unusual, a murder with no theft, no clear motive, no apparent conflict, only fear remained. And one chilling truth, the killer has never been caught, and he might be out there, living a perfectly normal life, among us. People kill for money. They kill out of jealousy, out of anger, out of sudden impulse. But rarely does someone kill and then take the victim's head. In the garage of Russell Derman's home, police found his body, slumped, decapitated. No blood splatter, no drag marks, no sign that the head was hidden somewhere in the house, not a single drop of blood leading elsewhere. Russell Derman's head was gone, and it has never been found. Why? Decapitation isn't random. It's not just murder, it's symbolic. The killer didn't just want Russell Derman dead, he wanted more than that. A few theories emerged. To eliminate evidence, the killer might have feared that the head could reveal something, a specific injury, trace blood patterns, DNA, or clues about the weapon used. To send a message, it might have been a threat, a warning meant for someone else. But who and why? Depraved obsession, a far more chilling possibility. The killer was a twisted individual who took the head due to some psychological disorder. A disturbing sense of power, controlling the body, erasing identity, asserting dominance. But there was one strange thing. No blood. Beheading usually causes massive blood loss, but the scene was eerily clean. So could Russell have been killed elsewhere and then brought back to stage the scene? Or did the killer clean it so meticulously that there was virtually no trace left? And still, every lead went cold. No usable DNA, no strange footprints, no unidentified fingerprints. There were no security cameras in the Derman home. Neighbors had cameras, but none pointed toward the house. All police were left with was silence. They didn't give up. They tracked every potential lead, old friends, former housekeepers, employees who had once worked for the family, people from Russell's past business dealings, but no one had a motive. No one had a suspicious schedule. No one raised a red flag. This wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't a heat-of-the-moment act. It was a crime that had been planned, carefully. The person who did this knew exactly what they were doing. They knew how to avoid cameras. They knew how to clean a crime scene. They knew how to keep investigators trapped in the dark. And that missing head still haunts the case. Was it discarded somewhere remote, buried deep in the lake bed? Or is it still being kept somewhere as a trophy? Police have called this one of the coldest murders they've ever seen. And the most baffling part isn't just the brutality, it's the control. The killer controlled the victim, controlled the scene, and now controls how the world stares into the silence he left behind. Lake Oconee remains still. Where the water meets the sky, the ripples drift gently, as if nothing horrific had ever happened beneath its surface. But deep below lies a question mark, a question no one can answer, no one can confirm, and no one truly wants to remember. Russell and Shirley Derman, an elderly couple, peaceful, beloved, with no enemies, no debts, were murdered in a brutal and unthinkable way. He was beheaded. She was bludgeoned to death, tied to cinder blocks, and thrown into the lake, as if someone wanted them erased. Forever. But why? The police gave everything they had. They interviewed hundreds, old friends, neighbors, former employees, and even business contacts from decades ago. No clear lead, no convincing motive, no physical evidence, no witnesses. And so, the theories began. Not facts, but possibilities. Possibilities no one has been able to rule out, even now. Theory 1, a mistake from the past. Could something have happened in Russell's past during his business days that no one ever knew about? A bad decision, a silent enemy, a covered-up accident, something buried for years that suddenly resurfaced in the most violent way. Theory 2, a hidden financial motive. Could it have been about money, a will, a large inheritance, a hidden account no one in the family knew about? Was the killer someone connected to old records, transactions, or a long-held grudge over property, shares, or family legacy? Theory 3, a hired killer. Given the precision, the controlled scene, and the total lack of trace, some investigators have considered the possibility that this was the work of a professional hitman. Someone hired, directed, not acting from emotion, but from duty. If that's the case, who hired them? And what was the real motive? The questions spiral, but answers remain elusive. And as the years passed, hope began to shift toward a new direction. Could this case be solved by modern technology? In the age of DNA, big data, and genealogy forensics, cold cases decades old have been solved. Microscopic DNA samples, once considered worthless, can now be revived, replicated, and cross-checked against massive databases of genetic information. Cell tower data can reconstruct someone's movements if they were carrying a phone, a drop of blood, a single hair, a forgotten GPS ping, a deleted phone log. Any of these could become the silent witness that finally speaks the truth. And then, there's one more thing. The killer, if still alive, still holds the secret. Did he ever slip up? Confide in a friend, a lover, an accomplice? Did he write something down? Hide it in a journal no one has ever found? Sometimes the truth only needs a tiny crack to burst through. The Dermond case is not closed. It rests there, in the lake, in memory, in dusty old case files. Not because people gave up, but because sometimes evil knows how to wait. Quietly, patiently, but like that seemingly calm lake. All it takes is a single stone, and the truth will ripple. Loud, unstoppable, undeniable. A murder without gunshots, no screams, no trace left behind. Only the chilling silence, the kind that lingers, from two gentle souls whose lives were taken in the cruelest way. Russell Dermond, 88 years old. Shirley Dermond, 87 years old. No one deserves to die the way they did, and even more so, no one deserves to be forgotten like this. We may not know who the killer is, but what we can and should do is remember the victims. Remember that this story is still unfinished. Remember that justice is still waiting, somewhere down the road. If you know something, even the smallest detail, don't hesitate to speak up. The truth doesn't have to shout. It just needs someone brave enough to whisper. Thank you for following the series, The Dermond Case, The Lake Oconee Mystery. If you believe this story deserves to be told, please share it. Because even the coldest case sometimes only needs a single spark to be seen again.